Wow, what brought me to mushrooms? It's been quite a journey. It's been a long lifetime of searching, or maybe even running from myself, or trying to find myself, trying to figure things out. I've suffered with depression my entire life. Never felt like I could be my authentic self. Self-doubt, insecurity, self-hatred plagued me my entire life. On the surface, I had a lot of things going for me, but inside there was always something missing, always something I was searching for. I traveled all over the world. I lived in Africa, I lived in the Middle East, tried to meet every person imaginable, trying to find my place in the world, but always felt lost. I always was drawn to the world of plant and fungi medicine, wasn't exactly sure what role it would have in my life. And the legality issues are always something that plagued me. I've always been very obedient and law-abiding, so the thought of doing something that could potentially end me up in great trouble was really daunting for me. And I ended up first approaching psychedelics by leaving the US because I was so daunted by the prospect of any type of legal ramifications from doing it. And I came to psychedelics and plant and fungi medicine quite late in life, just in the last few years. But after struggling with debilitating depression for years, I decided that I needed to make a change. The prescription drugs weren't working. Nothing else was working for me. And I'd heard great success stories from people who had used psilocybin and other psychedelics. And by good fortune, I happened upon Welshroomness a few years ago in DC, and finding the bricks and mortar dispensary there was fantastic for me because all the staff, everyone there couldn't have been more helpful, educating me about mushrooms and how to lemon tech, how to do everything the proper way, gave me a good introduction to it. But for me, I think mushrooms are really a personal thing. They gave me the knowledge to embark on my own journey, my own personal journey with the mushroom. And mushrooms are communicators by nature. They allow things in nature to communicate. They allow the trees to communicate with each other. And what they've done for me, and have done for countless others I know, is allow us to communicate with ourselves. And allowing me to communicate with myself was the most important thing ever. It made me realize that only I know what's best for myself. No pill, no therapist, no one else actually knows what's best for myself. So the mushrooms really allowed me to communicate with myself, to discover myself, to embrace my authentic self, and to fully realize who I am as a human being and my potential as a human being. And it's changed the course of my life. In the last few years, I've actually become a certified psychedelic practitioner because I believe so strongly in the benefits of psilocybin. I think it's something that can help so many people. But I think it has to be done the right way. It has to be done in a way that's safe for people, where people have trust. I think trust is the most important thing to have in a relationship with psilocybin. First of all, trusting yourself, trusting the process, trusting those who are helping you. And legalization is so important for that, because being able to trust and let go in this situation is of paramount importance to me. Wow, mushrooms have completely changed my perspective on myself and my own life. As I said, they've really allowed me to communicate with myself, to embrace myself, to take a deep dive inside of myself, who I am, what I am. I think in the media these days, there's a lot of tendency to portray mushrooms or psychedelics in general as kind of a magic bullet. You take them once and everything's going to be perfect in their life. And in my experience, it certainly has not been that way. What they do is as I said, they allow you to communicate with yourself, and they sort of put you in touch with your inner roadmap and show you, okay, to work yourself out of depression, this is where you need to go. But at the end of the day, you have to do the work. You have to be the one who undertakes all the difficult work to address that depression. People often ask me now, oh, so you don't get depressed since you take psilocybin? Not at all. Actually, what the mushrooms have allowed me to do is to embrace the depression and understand what it's telling me, to understand the emotions that I'm going through, and to sit with those emotions and really learn from them. I think we live in a society now where everyone is so focused on happiness. Everyone thinks they have to be happy all the time, and we tend to try to push out the anger, the sadness, the other emotions. And in my experience, the mushrooms have taught me all of those emotions are equally valid. The sadness can teach you a lot. The anger can teach you a lot. And to actually not have the fear of walking into the darkness. The mushrooms give you the strength sometimes to walk into the darkness, to see those parts of yourself that you've compartmentalized. We all have experiences or things in our lives, whether it's trauma or just difficult experiences that we've locked up. And psilocybin enables us to find that key, to unlock that, and go in and explore those different areas of ourselves that maybe we've been terrified to explore. And I can't say that it's not scary sometimes to go to those places. It's the hardest thing I've ever done in my life, but it's also the most beneficial thing I've ever done in my life. I truly believe that for myself, I only heal by taking a deeper dive into these dark spots, into the difficult experiences of my life. And the amount that these experiences can teach you and help you on your healing journey is just immeasurable. And the mushrooms they're our sacred teachers. I mean, I like to say, oh, they saw the dinosaurs come and go, they're probably going to see human beings come and go too. And the wisdoms that these little mushrooms have and that they're able to share with you, I mean, they really are, in Mexico, they refer to them as the holy children, the sacred teachers. And they really are sacred teachers if you open up to them. But what psilocybin experiences have also taught me is that it's not always an easy journey, but it's a journey that's worth all of the difficult work that you have to put into it. But it is work that you have to put into it. But if you're willing to do it, you can get there. And the lessons that the mushrooms can provide you throughout this work are invaluable. The criminalization of mushrooms is something that's greatly affected me because I think I would have been more open to trying this form of healing much earlier in my life if I hadn't been so fearful of the repercussions of doing it. It's really something my whole life I've been a people pleaser and very obedient, so the thought of doing anything that was against the law and potentially being caught was just terrifying for me. I reached a certain point in my depression that I was desperate, so I left the US to do it because I was afraid of doing it here. So legalization is something that I think would greatly benefit so many people who are like me and are reluctant to do something like that. I'm fortunate to have been born and raised in Colorado, where it's now been legalized, and I'm seeing the difference it's making for people there and how many people who previously wouldn't have been open to a psilocybin journey are now open to it and are now seeking out healing. I think it's something that is frightening for a lot of people, but legalization can make it less frightening for people. And I think the criminalization of mushrooms in particular is really detrimental because for me, any type of psychedelic healing, the set and setting is so important. And I think being in a setting where you have an underlying fear that what you're doing is illegal can really negatively impact the journey. And realizing that you're doing something that could eventually get you into trouble, I think already sets you out on at a disadvantage, because feeling comfortable, safe, emotionally, physically, like you're in good hands, that you can relax and be open to the healing that the mushrooms are showing you, is so important. And when you think that you're doing something that's against the law, I just really think that's detrimental to the whole process for people. First of all, I think that people need to look at mushrooms as medicine. I don't have anything against doing them for recreational purposes. It can be fun in that sense too. But mushrooms can be an incredible therapeutic tool, an incredible medicine. And I think we need to have greater understanding of that, of the potential of mushrooms as medicine. I think we owe a huge debt of gratitude to all of the indigenous cultures around the world who have maintained the traditions of plant and fungi medicine. The Mazatec people in Mexico with the mushrooms, the Wirarika people in Mexico with peyote, the Bwiti with iboga in Central Africa, the Amazonian people in Peru and Brazil, Colombia, Ecuador. These few places in the world where we still have these ancient repositories of wisdom where people have kept these traditions alive. I think we all in modern society owe a huge debt of gratitude to these people for not having lost them. And I think there's a tendency now in the psychedelic renaissance for people to think like, oh, we're discovering this now. Scientists are doing research. We have all this clinical work that's going on. And while that's really important too, I think it's not right to disregard all of the wisdom that indigenous cultures have in different parts of the world and somehow making a bridge between those two worlds. And I think legalization could help with that. In some cases, they're trying to reinvent the wheel with doing all this research with scientific studies on it. And there's a part of me that says, why not just go and talk to the people in Mexico who've been doing mushrooms for generations and generations and know all about it, all about how they can be used for healing. But really, there's, there are different ways to approach it, and I've approached it from the indigenous lens, so the clinical side of it was a little bit difficult for me to be open to and accept initially, but I realized that we all approach it in different ways. The prospect of being in a clinical setting with earphones and an eye mask and a controlled setting is more approachable to many people than being out in a village doing a traditional ceremony. So I really think we need to be open when we do approach legalization. I think we really need to be open to the different ways that the medicine can be used, not just in a traditional hospital or clinic setting, but also with traditional healers who have tons and tons of experience and knowledge that's been passed down through generations that has been overlooked by a lot of the Western developed world, but is so valuable. And I think in Colorado, for example, what they're doing, I think it's nice because they're giving licensed national or natural medicine facilitator licenses to people who do have this ancestral knowledge, who don't necessarily have a therapy or a medicine background. And I think it's important that when we do approach legalization that we look at it from all these different lenses, because these mushrooms have been used in almost every region of the world at some point in history, and they've been used for incredible healing all over the world. And I think that we've closed ourselves off to that because as modern human beings in developed societies, sometimes we think we have to try to have new understandings of everything. But the mushrooms have this ancient wisdom that's helped people forever and helps everything in nature. And I think being open to that and being honest about what they are and what they aren't, and that they're not a magic bullet that are going to instantly cure depression and PTSD, but they can set you on a course in the right direction for very, very profound healing. And this is a time in the world when I think we have so much negativity, so much aggression in our societies right now, and people focus so much on the external material world that the mushrooms really help us to look inward and to see what's important inside of us, the primordial needs and wants and desires of human beings. Mushrooms have the ability to connect us all to that again, and I think as a society that's what we really need to embark on healing as a society, is moving back to the humanity of our existence, the love, the kindness, and the respect, and the mushrooms can really put us in touch with that, provided we're open to it. And that trust and openness, I think, can only be available to a lot of people if it is legalized, because many people won't be open to it unless it is.